to be the man, you gotta beat the man right here.
Is the future of wrestling. You can call this the new world order of wrestling, brother.
Nobody is on my level. Everything I touch turns to gold.
Believe it or not, whether you like it or don't like it, learn to love it, because you have to listen to Wrestling is Real. It is the best thing going today. Woo!
We've made it into the 10th year, episode 742 of the Wrestling is Real podcast, and tonight I want to go ahead and go through and kind of give an outlook and where things need to go, the resolutions that all these individual wrestling companies that we cover on the program on a regular or semi-regular basis, we need to go ahead and say, listen, overall the wrestling landscape needs a boost. It needs a jolt of energy, because I feel like everything's flat right now. Well, we've obviously had a lot of things happen this year in wrestling, and we've glanced over most of it in the year of wrestling in the past month. The pendulum swift, the shift of everything that happened from the point that Cody Rhodes left AEW to when Vince McMahon had to step down and resign as chairman of the board and, running WWE on a regular basis, and Triple H taking over. There's been a lot of changes. And a lot of wholesale changes too. CM Punk and the whole issue there, and the influx of talent coming back to the company, where NXT 2019 is now running the main roster at the moment. And I say to myself, is that there are a lot of the companies are underachieving, and I believe there's many wrestlers that are underachieving. And I'm talking about across the board. Now, I'm not saying there aren't any individual workers that are out there that are doing great work and wrestling great out there, but I'm talking about that upper echelon level. Like, basically, there are two companies that have two stars. Really, if you got to talk about any storylines right now that really stand out to me, that give me a whole lot of hope for next year, it's the direction they're continuing to go with Roman Reigns and the Bloodline storyline and that faction. And in AEW, where MJF goes as world champion. It's those parts I want to just see where those are the most intriguing storylines so far going in the next year. Because we know that next year for WWE right now, that WrestleMania season is basically upon us. Just a matter of time. Things will officially kick into gear next Monday. And when that comes in, we'll definitely see a change where the whole dynamic of WWE right now, listen, it's been fine. Hey, seeing Dominic getting arrested at Christmas time, or, LA Knight and Bray Wyatt having their thing, or if it's not that, if it's Dexter Lumis and The Miz. And just trying to figure out where things need to go in terms of where the main product of WrestleMania is going to be, and what they're going to need to go ahead and boost that show in Los Angeles and Hollywood this year coming up. As we already know, there's already been talk about what WrestleMania plans are going to be. And you do notice that there's a lot of plans that are being talked about where Roman Reigns, of course, is the front and center. But it's going to be basically feeling like Roman Reigns has to carry the show. To the fact we've even heard about the idea where he might have to carry both nights. Hey, and the fact that they might not get The Rock to come out and be able to participate at WrestleMania after everything. I don't know what you do. I don't know what you're going to do next to kind of get things in the right for that company. As we said, in the 5+ months, almost 6 months right now, that Triple H has been front and center, head of creative, head of what's going on with the day-to-day with the company. Let's just say that when I look at things right now, creative and talent relations, the day-to-day product of television and the pay-per-views, premium live events, I look at where things are right now and I'm saying to myself, okay, the mid-card is good. Okay. Yes. they have their long-term creative person that we talked about behind the scenes, Rob Fee, correct? And so far, we are seeing storylines that are getting a beginning, middle, and end. I mean, they're not, storylines that are going to, break the bank and going to be so compelling and crazy. We haven't gotten to that far yet. But at least there's consistency. Is it always good? No. But it's been better. And that's all we can say, is that things have improved. But not in the parts where it needs to be. The main event is not improved yet. And I don't know if it was just pretty clear that it doesn't matter who anyone Triple H brings back into that revolving door, back into this company, taking from Vince's recycled bin of rejects. My thing is that once the company has brought certain stars from NXT into the machine, it doesn't matter if it was Triple H running the machine or if it was Vince running the machine. They ran to the machine, this marketing machine that WWE has. And if they don't work, you're not going to just try to recycle them and bring them back out there in something that was familiar to the audience or whatever. Like, okay, just because you have certain stars that might have been given some kind of a hokey gimmick, and then you're going to just repackage them as the original star they were in NXT and just say, well, you know what? What we did in NXT was great. We're just going to set them up like that. And it hasn't worked. It's not like we didn't want things to happen. It's not like I didn't want to see Karrion Kross succeed or Bray Wyatt succeed, but they haven't. I don't feel they've gotten any farther. I feel like Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley, who under Vince's regime, they did restore those two stars from the Thunderdome to current day to pretty high up on the ladder when it comes to the main event scene. If you ever had to put them in and place them into the main event, you could. But for whatever reason, we're not getting that. Let's just swirl them around into other things. You've brought in faction after faction after faction. Oh, look at all the Phantasma. Here's Hit Row. Here's Judgment Day. Here's, Viking Raiders. I mean, whatever it is. We're getting faction after faction. The OC, let's get them back together. And it's all fine and good, but it's like, are we really going anywhere with any of this? It's good to kind of just add something into the TV product, because now we're not getting so many multiple same matches over and over. Like, we're getting factions that are squabbling with each other in various scenarios, which is fine. At least there's a multiple dancing partners in each group to work off of, which is good. And yeah, some stars are trying to come and push, but remember, who's getting like a real push right now that's like super push? Austin Theory was getting that. And then they pushed him back and they brought him back up now, reheated him again. Seth Rollins, why he's still not so far up on the main event picture, and he's just kind of swirling around the U.S. title picture because they've had to use that title as a conduit because they have not figured out anything to do with the dual title situation, except for the fact that now we're going to have something where somehow they're going to have to break the belts up by the summer. And how do you do that while giving a proper explanation and logic as to why Roman Reigns would allow himself to be put up for a title? To have one of those titles be up for grabs, for him to lose it as a result. And would that kind of hurt his whole stance as the longest reigning champion for whatever he is right now, 800 plus days? Because you have no one right now that can break that streak. There is no one that can take that belt right now that logically, I mean, you could logically do it. But is it going to satisfy the audience? This was something that Triple H already had coming into taking over creative and talent relations. But there's been no answer given. The one person we keep hearing about right now is Cody Rhodes, once he returns. So, and it sounds like everybody's on board with that, including Triple H. So, okay. So he's on board with it. He's going to go ahead and take this here where let's go ahead and get Triple H. Let's go ahead and get Cody Rhodes back in time so we can reintroduce him, build him back up again, and he'll be the one that takes on Roman Reigns at WrestleMania and can be the one that is able to take one of those belts or both. I don't know. There's been a lot of talk about the current plans. That's this time of year we're supposed to expect those kind of things, but at the moment, here's where we are. WrestleMania hasn't had much of a change of anything. So both belts on the line at WrestleMania 38, and Roman Reigns wins. And then WrestlingNews.co now has reported that the WWE Championship and the Universal Championship will be defended separately at the Showcase of the Immortals, and Raw and SmackDown will have their own top titles heading into the summer. So that's the plan. Okay, great. That's quite a conundrum to get yourself out of. How do you write yourself out of that? It's got to be good. This is history we're talking about. That we need to be able to see that this guy is going to be coming in and there's going to be something really formidable. Everything's hinging on The Rock. And so far, The Rock has not been locked in to be a part of WrestleMania 39 in any way, shape, or form yet. And if he doesn't agree to appear, then Cody Rhodes will face Roman Reigns for the Universal title in the main event of Night 2. And Drew McIntyre will take on Seth Rollins for the WWE title main event Night 1. Okay, if this is the idea, how are we getting the WWE title off of Roman Reigns? Is he just going to give it up? Is he going to vacate it? Relinquish? Nobody's really talking about that part. We have to have an explanation here on how you get there. So far, I have not seen anything in any main event storylines right now in the last 6 months to give me confidence that the company's going to do something that's going to really satisfy the audience, especially that crowd in Hollywood, over 2 nights. Now, Royal Rumble's going to get sold out. That's the easy part. Hey, you're going to get a sold-out crowd for that. That show, it's easy to go and get the Royal Rumble to be something important. You have to figure out how is Cody going to go ahead and get that title shot, and how are you going to get it where Drew and Seth are going to go after the WWE title? Will it be vacated? Like, we don't have any answers to that. Are we going to get some kind of a, central figure? Is Adam Pearce going to do something where he's going to strip the belt? Like, what are you going to do to get to that point? No one understands where we have that. Now, the other word is that if The Rock is able to make WrestleMania, then Cody would take on Seth Rollins for the WWE title instead. That's fine. Why couldn't we have done that sooner? Why do we wait until now? Like, the question is, you could have kept Roman Reigns as Universal Champion the whole time, but remember, because they had to make that show, WrestleMania last year, to sell out those tickets, they had to put everything on the line. They had to put Roman and Brock with both belts, because there was no other way to do it. And remember, they booked themselves in that quandary because of the fact that Bobby Lashley got hurt. And they had to do the 5-way at day 1 last year to get themselves out of that mess. See, this company continues to have to work on trying to find a way to work their main event storyline without any real long-term planning. So this is all speculation here. Now, we're trying to expect that Cody Rhodes is supposed to make his return from a torn pectoral muscle either before or after the Royal Rumble on January 28th. He already appeared on TV last week during the Best of Raw. And that we already know that WrestleMania 38, that after Cody came back, he wants to win the WWE title. Okay. It's not going to be any good if you just strip the belt and Roman is not the person that you lose that drops the belt to them. You have to give the prestige of that WWE Championship to Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, or Cody Rhodes. One of those three have to have the distinction of having beaten the tribal chief of that belt in order for it to have prestige, in order for it to have the value it deserves. Because in order for you to get that belt, like, you need to get the rub from Roman Reigns. He needs to give up that loss and drop that belt to someone to be able to go and get somebody right there that is heralded and has a spotlight on them, because there's that main event major crowning achievement. It's not so much that you're getting the title. It's the fact that you're winning the title from Roman Reigns, who won it last WrestleMania. That story has to be told. If there is no way that they're going to tell that story, then it's tarnished. Big asterisk next to whoever wins that title, because if they're going to just strip the belt, they can't do it. It has to be defeated and earned. Someone has to go ahead and become new champion as a result of a pinfall or submission. There is no other way around this. Wherever you're going to do it, it's got to be that. And then on top of that, you're going to say, okay, so you have those 2 title matches, great. And that'll help out, because there's other things that can't happen right now that are going to be a struggle right now for WWE right now. Because what? Tyson Fury right now cannot come into the States. He's got visa issues. So now he can't even come out and compete if he wants to be a part of WrestleMania or any event next year, unless they go over there or back over to overseas or out of the States. We also don't know what happens to Logan Paul down the line. We don't know what's going to happen with Ronda Rousey down the line. The part-timers have to come back. Brock has to come back probably in some way, shape, or form. There's a lot of these questions to be answered. And like, where do things go from there? But if we don't have an answer right now, and come April 1st and 2nd, we're at SoFi Stadium, and they got to get 90,000 people plus on both nights to sell out that place. I mean, for that show, for that market, they have to sell that thing out. They have to be able to do it. And I don't know what you do to get to that. I mean, is this crowd excited enough now? Like, listen, it's Triple H. So some of that Triple H fan base, some of those loyalists right now, they're going to go ahead and make these shows because, we're going to get some NXT type stuff. We're going to get something here. It's going to be special. The Money in the Bank briefcase match. Maybe it'll be here. Or maybe it won't. Like, what matches will be kept for WrestleMania because they're going to take some of these matches away? Well, we don't know yet. And so you just look and say, okay, well, what's going to happen soon? There is no one right now you have on your main roster that's going to be a standout that's going to be pushed all the way to the moon to become what Bianca Belair has gotten to be the last 2 WrestleManias, where she's been in major main event feuds and she's become champion. Because now Bianca Belair is a made person. She is a top star, regardless. But is there anybody else that they have right now among the crop of talent they have right now that they brought back, or any of the younger talent they're looking to bring in? I mean, it's not a good track record when you have Mandy Rose, who was built up for so well. She's not even around anymore because you know what? She's making more money outside of the company than she needs to be in the company. So for her, she's just fine. She's accomplished a lot. Because, if she did go to the main roster, probably be really great. But you know what? Maybe there would be a chance that there might be a letdown of Mandy Rose. Or maybe she should go somewhere else. I don't know. But she's doing what she wants to do. And how things got to the point where she felt like she wanted to go ahead and do what she's doing with the, not the OnlyFans, so what is it called? It's not FaceTime. What's it called? What site? I forget now. But either which way, she moved on. And then who do we have that's in the wings waiting to be brought up after the fact? Okay, well, yeah, Roxanne Perez, sure. But I mean, she probably could use some more time down at NXT. Let her be champion for a while before she gets moved up. Who else? Braun Breaker? Braun Breaker so far one-dimensional. They have not done much to get him any more moved up than he is. And he's been a dominant champion. Okay. But there's nothing more to him. We need to add more than this one-dimensional, this character. Because even his character is getting a little bit exhaustive. Who do we got after that? Grayson Waller? Carmelo Hayes? Do you really think, and I mean this sincerely, how many of you people out there sincerely think when you look at stars like Carmelo Hayes or Joe Gacy and Schism or, the Creed brothers, how many of these people do you really think, oh, these are the level of Austin Rock and Undertaker and Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns? Like, who in their right mind is thinking they're going to be at that level? Because as a wrestling community, as a wrestling public, we should all expect that all of the wrestlers we have now should be striving to be such top of their game. And they're not. And dare I say, if like AEW, for the point that everybody wants to go ahead and continue to go ahead and focus on, well, look at all this former WWE talent they got over there and they don't get time to be on the roster. And hey, they're getting paid. It's not getting to work out there. Miro and Lance Archer and House of Black and Andrade, I get it. But it's one thing that Tony Khan, I will give credit to. He continues to keep doing. The pillars are always not that far away from being noticed or featured. Darby Allin, you're still going to see him. Maybe not every week, but you're going to see him a lot. MJF, Sam Guevara. Oh, yeah. Jungle Boy. Yeah. Hook. Yeah. Jamie Hayter. Britt Baker. Yes. Interesting. The younger stars are always the ones that are going to continue to be put up front and center. Meanwhile, there are certain stars that are the ones that are working with younger talent. Oh. You wonder why Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson and Chris Jericho are consistently on television so much, because they're working with younger talent. They're also kind of working like they're enhancement talent, huh? Samoa Joe, he's champion right now, right? Working with both belts, Ring of Honor title and the TNT title. Working with Wardlow, trying to build up that young star, another pillar, right? Jade Cargill holding on to that TBS title for as long as she has. Young star, building her up. Tony Khan gives a shit about the future of the company. And I never really say this that much. But I'll tell you what, that's what matters to me. You don't need to bring it, and this is the whole thought process of to build a team. Like I always think about Moneyball. I always think about this idea of like when I'm a sport, a fan of a sport, of a team in a sport, a team sport, whatever franchise it is. I am not of the opinion where I like the team that I go for has to have all these free agents and all this money and resources put together to build a winner. No. I like building from the ground up. I like the grassroots system. I like a farm system. I like to see underdogs build themselves up, build stars from within, and build them up. Now, believe it or not, why do you think I always have so much praise for some of the stars that I always look at from the other companies? Okay? Let me just give a couple examples. When I look at MLW, they're building younger stars. All right? Alexander Hammerstone, they have kept that guy as champion. Jacob Fatu, they built him up from nothing. Richard Holiday, continue to be built up. Okay? Alex Kane, the young goat Myron Reed, all of those. Because even Court Bauer gets it, man. He gets that idea too. Now, I'm not surprised if some of you probably never heard me ever say that before, but I'm sure I've said it before in some way, shape, or form. But it's like one of those things where I'm not here to try to go and put together some kind of narrative to make kind of things make sense. I don't like to go and go off on tangents and try to explain something to try to make a point, because I think I don't want to put some kind of example in front of everybody to try to, where it's going to get over people's heads. I don't want to do that either. But I always feel like that. So MLW, like I said, they take young stars and they're building them up to become stars of tomorrow and stars with their brand. When you look at Impact Wrestling, even though I always complain about some of the free agents they always bring in, I'll tell you what, listen, for all the Mickey James and Bully Rays they like to bring back all the time, Josh Alexander is being built from the ground up. Scott D'Amore puts a lot of faith in him, right? Same thing goes for Jordan Grace. They talk about stars that are just being built up. And listen, they do a good job of continuing to keep stars that were built up from within. with Eddie Edwards. And you look at them, like some stars you also have that they've brought up and they've really brought into the ranks. Rich Swann, Chris Bay, Ace Austin, even though we don't see them that much because they're doing so much in New Japan. But it's their work and impact that brought them to the dance for what they're doing right now. Tasha Steelz has become a bigger star as a result. NWA was doing that for a long time. Listen, Eli Drake broke some ground when he was over there. Tasha Steelz broke ground, she was over there. Thunder Rosa when she was over there. And like I said, AEW, Thunder Rosa, you also have a star that's also in the making that, she became champion. And unfortunately, her injury took her out. But they're always going to have her back at some point to go ahead and bring her back up and bring us back into the mix, which will be great. And every wrestling company is going to have their free agents that come back. I was like, do I care about Saraya coming back? It's nice to see her back, but it doesn't matter to me. Because I'm not one of those people in the wrestling bubble here of my wrestling podcast brethren, my fellow wrestling podcast brethren, that care so much about all these former WWE stars become bigger stars, and then somehow they're going to come back someday, back to the company and prove Vince wrong because they got a chip on their shoulder. Sure, that's because some of them are going to actually work better because they have a chip on their shoulder. Great. And how many times do we see certain stars come back and get better? And then, we want to see if Vince was going to use them right by this time around, which is why it was so important to see Drew McIntyre, Bobby Lashley, and Cody Rhodes come back as they did. Better as they were before they left. Because let's just be honest with each other here, okay? Drew McIntyre, Drew Galloway, he built himself up really well in Impact Wrestling. Made a name for himself. Bobby Lashley made a name for himself. And the whole Beatdown Clan with MVP at his side. Right? And then you look at where Cody Rhodes was. Hell, damn guy helped found the company that now is thriving. It's not neck and neck with WWE, but they're getting better. And I think with AEW, they just need to continue to keep working on the pillars. Because no matter what they're going to do, okay, continue to build the stars that are going to be your champions going forward. Because that's what matters. And it's obvious they're doing that. And listen, they're great to have certain stars that they have out there that are great, that are going to get used well. Because how many times do we really complain about, okay, if Miro's not out there, has he been booked okay? Like, has he been booked strong? Sure. The Redeemer gimmick is good. We just don't see enough of it for whatever reason. Andrade, the Family Office, not so much, but he's had some really great matches out there, right? And there's other things that you see that you could, focus upon what they could be doing more with. But for me, I feel good with what's going on there. What about the other companies? Okay, Ring of Honor, you can't see so much because Tony Khan still has to figure out what to do with that. Because I don't know what Ring of Honor is going to be at the end of the day and how it's going to be used. But he has used that for some of his younger stars. When it comes to the Pure title, Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia, he's had them, holding those titles to build something out of them. And really just more for prestige, I guess, for the fact of the matter is. I don't know. Ring of Honor is just nice to have. Like, it's nice to see that brand still around. But Tony Khan doesn't have an idea what to do with it. Well, I'm not going to have an idea what to do with it yet. But it's just a matter of that he has it here, and he's still waiting to get this broadcast deal into place, which now he's going to start putting the Honor Club together, start putting some shows together, do some TV tapings, and start building that brand out, finally. And not just as a stopgap that's just used in between for AEW programming. That it should be standalone while they have the pay-per-view standalone, but the build-up for all those pay-per-views should be through their own programming and not through AEW all the time. So that's the other part. That's a resolution they need to figure out. With WWE, the resolution they need to figure out is they need to go ahead and they have to figure out the young farm system. They have to get that thing up and going. Developmental needs to be strong. And I don't think some of the stars they've had, because they did make a break off of what they had from the Next in Line program to start bringing certain stars back. Like, come on, New Day as tag team champions. Who does that serve? Who does that serve? When Undisputed Era was like the top of the game over there, okay, maybe some of those stars were going to move over to the main roster and be something important. Sure. Gargano and Ciampa, sure, they moved over. But like, who else do you have right now that's going to just stand out and going to be really important when they move over to that main roster? It's going to make a big impact right away. I mean, Shawn Michaels is still getting his feet wet in development on. They're trying to get things all figured out. I'm still not impressed with some of the stars they have over there. They're going to be with the real upside. Like, I can see some stars they have, but there's nothing much to them. Like, let's build out and flush out their characters before they move up. Grayson Waller? Does anybody think that guy's going to move up anything else than just be the Australian Miz? Because that's how I feel like he is. And Braun Breaker, you know, you're not doing anything with his previous state, like just the fact of how, you know, the pedigree of his family. You don't hear much about that at all, except for the fact that Rick Steiner out there for a little bit. Otherwise, nothing else. Like, sure, he's basically the third, you know, second generation star, and he's out there, but there's not much more to him. And then I look at some stars they had over in NXT, they move over, and I'm like, okay, what's going to move on with them? Because you also got a bunch of older stars that they brought up from that black and gold 2019 roster. I'm like, they're not a lot of young people in there. Austin Theory's one of the few young people I know that's in there. But everybody else is in their 30s. And like, how much upside do you have left for some of these stars? But WWE's not going to build young talent. And if they're not going to build young talent, then they need to continue to go and build these Hollywood A-list type crossovers. They need to build stars that are going to cross over to Hollywood, into sports, into every other aspect of entertainment. Sports and entertainment. They need to be able to have that dynamic. Because that is the model by which the WWE builds talent. Okay? They always take a free agents and build them up. Fine. Then go with Vince's idea, the original idea on how he did things, and make these stars big enough so they can go and move on and be something bigger than life. That's what Sasha Banks became. That's what Becky Lynch has become. That's what Bianca Belair is. Multifaceted and able to move out there and do a lot more with themselves than just be in the ring. Roman Reigns is going to be a star overnight. He's going to be a Hollywood guy. It's just a matter of time. That's why he's not been working a limited schedule in the first place, because they are trying to build him out there and become something that's going to be a really big deal. Follow the same route as The Rock. And they just have stars right now that can really go that route, and that's what you got to think of. That's the WWE style. That's the WWE way. That's what they build stars for. They build stars for Hollywood. They're a pipeline for Hollywood to find mainstream celebrities. John Cena, Batista, they're proof positive of that right now. The Rock, proof positive. Just a matter of time for Roman Reigns makes that way over there. And who knows who else? But some of the stars we look at right now that we're looking to hope that what's going to do well. Listen, Kevin Owens has been around forever. Sami Zayn has been around forever. The Usos have been around for a decade plus. I mean, the one thing I do know is with Solo Sikoa, he is, you know, that's the young guy that's going to work his way up. And there are other Samoans they have right now that can work their way up as well. Something to be said about that Samoan family needs to be still always front and center with what they have. Which is why I was always afraid that, you know, Jacob Fatu is not going to have too much time he's going to spend in MLW. Remember, we saw him at Ric Flair's last match, his match with Josh Alexander, and a lot of people were talking about him. And I still feel like Jacob Fatu, at some point, that guy is going to get picked up. He's going to get swept up. Court Barrett's not going to be able to afford that guy. And Jacob Fatu will be a commodity. And WWE would be smart to go after someone like him to continue the legacy of the bloodline eventually. Because the Samoan family needs to have that continued lineage going on into WWE going forward. It's obviously worked for them for a long time. And for Triple H, he needs to continue to keep that legacy going. From Yokozuna to Rikishi to the Usos, Umaga, current day to Usos, Solo Sikoa, Roman Reigns. It's just the way it is. So you keep that lineage there. That legacy continues on in WWE, period. And then you just need to figure out what you're going to do. Like, okay, you want to continue to bring in some stars that'll get to be workers and continue to work out there part-time. The Logan Paul, if they can get Jake Paul to come into it as well. Hey, that's great. Okay. For those big shows. We need to kind of just settle with the fact that, even though we like, where Triple H is going to go with things, he's also not the kind of guy that wants to build up young talent. I mean, we know that from his experience, from the fact that who did he like to go ahead and build his enhancement talent to build over and become bigger stars than him? How often did that happen? Not much at all. So I don't think he's the kind of guy that wants to do that. And so if you're going to just deal with established talent that's already been established from somewhere else, you need to build the dimensions to make them bigger than life. Which you should be able to get because you have veteran talent that should be able to know how to cut promos. And they already work well in the ring. So let's build more for that. So the Hollywood system needs to be rebuilt back up. And they need to keep that, okay, listen, you want to go ahead and book things differently and have certain stars booked the way you want? Sure. Like Baron Corbin has a thing right now where he's always talking about that. He's been actually recently talking about what Triple H has been doing. He was on the Johnny Dare morning show. And he expressed that Triple H is going to great lengths to ensure that everyone who's on TV is utilized properly. So Corbin says that, quote, that's one thing I love about Triple H. He's a firm believer in it's not a marathon, not a race. He likes to slow play things. He doesn't just waste people. And if you don't have something that is a big time player or move on television, he's like, then you don't need to be out there because it's not good just to be out there. You want to have a purpose every time you go on television. So right now, he does believe there's been new energy and new life brought to the product. Yeah, there has been, somewhat. He compares Triple H's creative vision to Vince's because Vince is go, 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 whereas Triple H prefers to let things breathe. Corbin does praise Vince for being a machine, but he also said it is nice to step back and spend time with family and not needed for a show. And so we know that Corbin's been repackaged. He's now, the next wrestling god with JBL. And he's in the mid-card. He's, working with the likes of Johnny Gargano, Dolph Ziggler, Akira Tozawa, Cedric Alexander. That's where he's been at. He feels like everything's going okay with that. Sure. But there should be an urgency to get some stars made. If you're not going to go after younger stars, then get some stars made. If you're going to just continue to take some stars that were made from somewhere else and then just kind of just put a shine on them and polish them, and that's what you feel like is going to work, you just can't do that in this company. What Vince would do, he would take somebody and make them larger than life. Established stars, by the way. Because to be honest, Stone Cold was, had a name for himself somewhat in WCW. Undertaker was already kind of recognized in WCW as well. And, AEW among other places. And then you think about who else has been out there and it's just like, okay, try to build some stars from the ground up. Rock, Triple H are examples of that. Mick Foley was a name for himself before he came in. And so those are some of the things you have to think about. Like, you can have a mix of all that. But where's that young talent that's going to stand out, that larger than life, these spectacles, larger than life characters? By making everyone the same, grounded in reality, doesn't work. And one thing is, it is nice that Seth Rollins hasn't gone back to any kind of normalized character. He gets to wear the flashy suits. He gets to go with the ha-ha-ha kind of stuff, right? So he stands out. Because even Seth Rollins, he was packaged a certain way before. And he's got some kind of a character now, which works. And he stands out. And because of the fact that he's a standout guy, great wrestler, needs to continue to be built up and be important. Something that's got to be understood and planned out. And so we need to find out where it's going to go on with all the changes that are going to happen, all the debuts that come up. And it's funny, like, okay, what culture actually put out a story about all the returns and debuts and who made impact? And they have the names. So Bronson Reed has done nothing so far. And I don't see where Bronson Reed just looks like another big guy that what's going to be the standout to him? Like, you can keep Bronson Reed the same kind of guy again. Like, okay, you put Tommaso Ciampa with The Miz before. What did that do for you? Nothing. Now you got to team up with Bronson Reed. Is that going to do anything? Probably not. I don't know what it's going to do. And let's just continue along. Okay, Lacey Evans coming back. She's gone through various changes, and now there's a whole, her background with what she said about certain things. That was a big change. How about, what is it? The Maximum Male Models. They dropped the gimmick altogether. And move LA Knight to be LA Knight again. I still think it was a mistake. And Maximum Male Models we have not seen ever since. So Marseille and Mansois, okay, guess this was kind of hokey, you don't like it, fine, but you got rid of it. You just buried it. And then you got Valhalla with the Viking Raiders. Okay, that's a nice part to get Viking Raiders to become a little more legitimized. So they could just be a tag team. But they're going to be built up enough to be important yet? I don't know. Emma coming back. I don't ever understand why they brought her back 5 years after she left the company. She's back. It hasn't really matched much. And by the way, she's had 3 televised matches, lost them all. Doesn't make sense to me why she's there. Tegan Knox, also nothing. And she tagged up with Liv Morgan to go after Damage Control for the tag team titles and nothing. But Tegan Knox has not meant anything so far at all. I don't get what the whole deal was for this all. Hit Row coming back without Swerve Strickland is nothing. Johnny Gargano, and even this story in What Full Culture, did she say he's one of the most glaring failures of the new regime? He's been parody booked, half wins, half losses, and he's listening to the likes of Baron Corbin, Omos, and Miz. So I guess Gargano's just happy to have a job? Is that all he was there for? Just a good hand? The whole deal with Dexter Lumis, is that all he's supposed to be, just a good hand? Gargano's made a big deal, and he's gotten airtime. Like, I've seen nothing come out of this with him. Tommaso Ciampa? I don't know. Right now he's injured, so it's unfortunate that. And Dexter Lumis? Hey, you've been using him a lot, but I don't know what to think about where he's going to go right now, and if he's going to go after Bronson Reed and what they're going to do with him after all. I don't know. Candice LeRae, another one like Gargano, has meant nothing. The Poison Pixie story, the gimmick of her as a Poison Pixie. You never even explain what that means. I know it doesn't make any difference, but there should be some kind of thing. Just because of the fact you might have been called that before. So what? Align with Bianca Belair for a little bit. Won some matches, start and stop pushes. Nothing. Nothing important. Because nobody comes in here with a strong push and they're going to get built up to the moon. No, nothing like that. Mia Yim comes back. Okay. Elias comes back and he's been kind of just flat. The Ezekiel character, they just kind of just threw it off to the side. Okay. Other than the Fast Phasma, right? Okay. It's still, they're running to the wall to see what's going to happen with that so far. I don't know yet. But they're just around and that's it. It's okay, LA Knight. Now he's in this deal with Bray Wyatt. Well, we got to see if this is going to play out or not. If we're going to get something out of him after all. I don't know. Karrion Kross and Scarlett, I feel like, well, they made mistakes of obviously, listen, the thing is you can't use the fact that how they used them against Jeff Hardy the first time around. You can't use it as an excuse anymore. We can't go back to that in 2021. Okay, got it. We can't go back to him anymore and explain. He has Scarlett now. He has the entrance. And now what? He's seen with Drew McIntyre, then he went to Rey Mysterio, and that's it. He had the matchups with McIntyre. They were disappointing, underwhelming, as What Culture explains. But he's not doing anybody any favors either. Good brothers. Nice to see him back. Doesn't make much of a difference if they're here or not. But hey, they fit here and, they take some spots. That's all. Alexa Bliss is back. So you get rid of her complete with the doll. And basically, you detach her from the Bray Wyatt gimmick altogether. And now you're kind of start bringing her back over a little bit. Okay. You don't want to make her the goddess again, but now you're going to bring her into this spot where, like, we don't even know what she's supposed to be. And right now, she's currently in the feud with Bianca Belair, more or less. Braun Strowman's been back. He has meant nothing. They put him up against Omos. Big guy matches, okay. And nothing. I mean, Strowman doesn't mean anything right now. It is what it is. Raquel Rodriguez, you know, they're always going to look at her as a potential women's champion down the line. That's the plan for that. And that's fine. You know, there's an upside to Raquel Rodriguez. But she's very vanilla right now. There needs to be something more about her to make her stand out. And that's not just the, the way her back looks and how strong it is, okay? Shoulder blades. Now, we'll say that Pete Dunne as Butch, I think he's like, him and Rich Holland have actually done well in the Brawling Brutes gimmick. That actually has worked. I think it somewhat works, and I think at some point down the line, Sheamus will see that there's a split between them, and maybe, at least I think Butch will do well spread out after all this. Bray Wyatt's come back, and right now, Uncle Howdy and all this other shit's going on doesn't make a difference to me at all. I'm not into this yet. It's taking a long time to get somewhere. So I don't know what to think about that. Logan Paul made his debut. He's been very good. And you know what? It'll be nice to see him continue to work out there. It just sucks that he's going to be in and out. Imperium coming back, I'll tell you what. Because of the fact that Gunther is such a strong character, and as a 3-person group, as opposed to 4, is not bad. Imperium's not bad right now as a faction. Because they were pushing Gunther and they were kind of getting him in the right direction. So I got no problem with Gunther. And if they want to, is he going to break that wall, that ceiling, that he's going to be able to go in as an international character, with an accent? Is that going to get pushed up to a level where he's going to be something bigger? Maybe. I don't know. I hope so. But I don't see if he's going to be up to that level where he's going to go after Roman Reigns. Maybe, but I don't know if that's, you could put him up there down the line. He's eventually going to have to be up there, but I don't know yet. Damage Control has gotten the most time so far. Have they really been much at all yet? No, not really. Like, they're out there and they've had a lot of time, but the truth is, Io Sky and Dakota Kai have not made much of a difference at all. And Bayley's out there because she's got her minions out there, and that's it. But it's okay. It's been fine. Solo Sikoa is one of the top guys that's been made his move in here. He is, the enforcer. He's been damn strong. And the fact they put him on SmackDown was very smart. All of them have been doing with him, Solo Sikoa, smart move to move him up to that main roster quick. I think it was an excellent move when they did. So I like that move a lot. I think that really has helped a lot for that Bloodline faction because you got that young star right there that gives a whole lot of credibility right there. And then Cody coming back. But this is also during Vince. This is before Triple H. But will Triple H do the right thing and continue to keep Cody strong? Everything that he did last year should say that Cody should be back up on top and should be near a title or win a title. I do believe that. And I hope it does. So there's that to all consider of what they've done so far. Like I said, we've broken down what the whole roster looks like now. That's great. And I appreciate what culture for giving me that to work off of. But for the most part, we just have to wait and see if, WrestleMania season is going to have something that's going to come out and really do something here. I don't know what that's going to be. I hope we get something here. Now, the other organization did not talk about, among all the stars that need to build some younger stars and do something with them. And by the way, Austin Theory is not one of those younger stars they put in that list, but the thing was, you need to keep an eye on him and see if they can build something with him into something bigger. And I hope they do. Now, the other organization did not bring up was the NWA. And at the moment, they have they got some younger stars they're doing something with. This, with Austin Idol's son, Scion, they're doing a good thing with him. Kerry Morton are doing a good thing with him. And with Tyrus and Trevor Murdoch and all the stuff that were going on and the whole breakdown with Nick Aldis, they have to figure out who's going to be a new champion. They're going to start building up to that spot. I don't know who that's going to be, but at least even Billy Corgan has a couple of young stars he's got in the wings to build up. And if Joe Alonso's part of that mix, let's keep going with it. Let's get some young stars that are going to stick around and really do some real big changes, and let's see if that's going to work out, because I hope it does. Now, what's about Tony Khan? The other resolution we need to see is, I'm hoping that we continue to see where things go, where I want to be able to say that Tony Khan keeps going on with these younger stars. If at least he's doing one thing right, he's keeping the young stars important and strong and being pushed. And he's done a good job of taking certain stars and attaching them to older talent, to veteran talent. When you look at Wheeler Yuta attached to Bryan Danielson, when you look at Darby Allin attached with Sting, and just everything like that's going on, it's just smart. Jungle Boy with Christian, it's all been pretty smart when you look at it. So I can appreciate all that. So Tony Khan's had to go ahead and he doesn't mind defending himself on certain things that he talks about when it comes to storylines. Like there's various stories that are out there from the dirt sheets that have talked about what Tony Khan has said about how he's been booking things with AEW. So he had a discussion with Fightful, and he says there was criticism about the booking, and he says that wrestling fans are amazing people, but I think in some ways, some wrestling fans are like, why is this match happening? They shouldn't do this match. There's no build. Maybe it's the start of something. How do you know? And she talked about, there was a match recently with John Moxley and Daniel Garcia prior to the Battle Royal on Rampage. And so he explained that, well, both are going to be in the match. There's going to be something there on Friday. So we've already told you there's something else. I saw someone say this match is unnecessary. What does that even mean? You say it's not a way for people to watch TV anymore because every match has to have some kind of story to get into it. Well, what about the story that everyone wants to be the best? That's how most sports are. There are storylines going into games and matches, and he's right about that. He also says that, there's that part he says there. And then we move along, and he's also talked about other things where he's talking about his booking style. And when he's talked about that, he has said the following. I'm going to get this from Wrestling Inc. So this was the Fightful Grapsody podcast where they talked to him. It was about 90 minutes they spoke with him. And then he talked about that fans expect there's a clear storyline for a given match that had been taking up in talking segments. So he goes on and talks about that, WCW Monday Night was the number one show on cable, and so much of it was two wrestlers going out. It wasn't even announced. It was just, okay, Rick Martel's going to come out and wrestle Prince Iaukea. Okay, cool. Or two luchadors, or a luchador and a wrestler from Japan, or Eddie Guerrero against a wrestler from Japan, or Chris Jericho against a wrestler from Japan. And I loved it. It was fun. And the person who produced these shows has gone and worked at other places, and it's like you forgot all the stuff he did. And then it's like, why would anybody do this? You don't see this on TNTBS or TNT. You're the one who did it. He's referring to Eric Bischoff. Bischoff, again, when it comes to Nitro, he says that on Nitro, it's always just two guys wrestling and it didn't go anywhere. And that's not what I do. And that would be the greater sin. The person who complains is actually the person who did this more than anybody. And so Eric Bischoff has said some things about things so far, and it's like, okay, I get it. But Tony Khan, people are going to go after him and complain about what he's been doing lately, and it's like, okay, whatever. But it's like, everyone wants to go and attack. And there has to be all this thought process that the wrestling fans should get back to being able to say what should happen on television or how things should be booked. And I'm like, no, we don't need that again. We don't want that again. We don't need the audience, the fan base, to continue to say, oh, this is where things should go. I don't want that. Not again. That's another resolution that Triple H needs to go and have. His booking is his booking. He does not need to be booking for the sake of making the fans happy. He wants the book to keep the roster happy, okay. But he needs the book in his direction where he feels best for the product. So sure, I'm not concerning myself about certain storylines that don't work well. Dexter Lumis and Miz or Damage Control or whatever. I don't care. The mid-card's whatever. The mid-card is what it is. It's that main event storyline that needs to be matters. That needs to be the reason that people show up to the shows. And so far they've booked Roman Reigns and the Bloodline storyline has been great. Still the best thing there is in wrestling coming out of 2022, going into 2023. Period. After that, what's next? That's what I want to find out. So that said, we're going to leave it there. That is the show. Thank you for listening to the program. As you always do, final show of 2022. We come back the next year. We do it all over again. So come back next week for the Wrestling is Real podcast because wrestling needs us.
Thank you for listening to the Wrestling is Real podcast. Find past episodes anytime at wrestlingisreal.com or subscribe on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or all major podcast distributors. Follow at King of Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. This has been a presentation of the King of Podcasts Radio Network.